What's up, guys? I'm Bryce Carter. This is
I'm
Jared.
Jared.
Oh,
Oh,
and we're part of Triple Play Fantasy. Today we have a stock up, stock down video, and we have a lot of great names to talk about.
so we're going to start out with Darren Fox of the Sacramento Kings. So, primary ball handler of the Kings now that Tyrese Haliburton's gone. He's getting a lot more shots up, playing alongside Dante DiVincenzo or Davion Mitchell, who's been getting a lot more minutes as of recent. So, I think his stock up fantasy, he's pretty highly owned, but you can slot him in your weekly lineups as a starter every single week.
I completely agree. I'm going to talk about it from a real life perspective. Um, the thing about Fox is not that Halliburton's gone. Halliburton was another point guard, another person that likes the ball in his hands, but now that he's gone, it's fully back on him. He's just him and Demontis Sabonis now, and him being a point guard, I expect him to be really more aggressive if the Kings are trying to make a playoff push now. The only person he has now really is Davion Mitchell. And Davion Mitchell, he's more like a defensive type guard.
Yeah.
He's not really like a scorer. So I think it's all on Fox now. I think he'll be able to reach his maximum potential as a player. And I'm just really excited to see what the Kings can do because I believe him and Sabonis can be a really scary duo, arguably top 10 pretty soon. The way if they can just keep producing and finish the season out strong and build on to next year, they're two players you could really look out for.
Yeah, that pick and roll can be deadly, man. I can definitely see it already.
Next on the list, we have Tyrese Haliburton. The guy just got traded to the Pacers.
Little competition for minutes now that Brogdon's still out injured. He's going to be the primary ball handler. Just kind of how a flip side of how Fox is for the Kings. Halliburton doesn't have to compete for touches in the offense. He's going to be primary ball distributor, shooter, and he got his man Buddy Hield with him in the same trade, so he's going to be able to distribute, get some shots up.
Jared, I completely agree. The thing about Halliburton, you could tell he was always really, really talented. But the thing about the Kings before this trade happened, they had Halliburton, Fox, and Buddy Hield. Well, Buddy Hield isn't as much as a ball dominant player. He's more of a shooter, but he still needs the ball in his hands. But Halliburton and Fox, they're both two point guards. Like they need the ball to be. They're not much off ball players. So that fit, it was never really going to work out. So I believe Fox. I believe Halliburton. Excuse me. I believe he benefited from the trade the most because now he gets to go to the Pacers, playing with Miles Turner, just a full offensive fresh start. And I believe that the Sacramento Kings. I think it was originally Fox's team, anyways. And I think in the long run, I think the Kings would rather go with Fox and Halliburton. But I do believe, for fantasy purposes, both sides won. So if you're a Fox owner or a Halliburton owner, I think you won, and you should be excited for what they can do for the rest of the season.
Yeah, both definitely trending up in my opinion. I still am wondering what the Kings were thinking giving that much up for Sabonis, but giving up Buddy Hield was a lot. But I think Buddy Hield is another player possibly trending up, but he's just gonna be shooting no matter what team he's on.
Buddy Hield, and that much. Next person we're gonna discuss is Rashaan Holmes, also on the Kings. Wow, we have a lot of Kings players today.
Yeah, so now he will be starting on the bench. On the flip side of the trade for Indiana Pacers, Sabonis will now come into that starting five. He'll play as many minutes as possible. Holmes coming off the bench won't be taking as many shots. He'll be more on his defensive duties. Um, but yeah, I can't see. He's pretty lowly owned in fantasy now, but I can see his stock just keep plummeting as long as Sabonis keeps racking up minutes.
Yeah, completely agree. Sabonis, he's a top, not top five, maybe top five, arguably top five, definitely top seven center in the league. So a player like that coming onto your team, if you're a guy like Holmes, a lot of your touches are going to be taken away. That's just reality. But Holmes is still a great player. It's just he's going to have more of a bench role. Before Sabonis came, he was a starter. Now he's going to be coming off the bench. But, he could have some good nights, but overall, Sabonis is the star center now. The Kings, they made it obvious by trading for him that they believe he's a center piece, or he's a next piece that they need to kind of keep moving forward. And yeah, I kind of agree with that as well. But if you have Holmes, I'm not going to say you should cut him because he's
I would trade. I would try and get that little.
You could trade him. But if if he's a starter on your team, definitely he should not be in your starting lineup. He's a good bench player. He can have some good nights, but overall, he's a hustler. He's a very talented player. Just Sabonis definitely is going to get more minutes and touches going forward.
Yeah, I think this is probably more of a basketball move for a good 1-2 punch at the 5 position. This has been what the Kings have needed for a while. It also lets Holmes, who's a young player, develop under, like you said, arguably a top 5 center in the game today. So I think overall this is a better basketball move than it is a fantasy move. So like you said, I'd probably try and trade him away, or maybe just be not a starter, but just keep him on your roster. But I don't see his stock going up anytime soon as long as Sabonis is healthy.
Definitely a solid bench player or a tradable asset.
Yep.
Next and finally, we have Bobby Portis.
All right. So Bobby Portis, player for the Milwaukee Bucks. I think Portis, even though Brook Lopez is coming back, we don't have a concrete timetable for when that will happen. But Serge Ibaka coming into that team is definitely going to affect his minutes. He's not going to be playing as much. I think come playoff time, obviously, Giannis will play in more, I guess, games where he needs to be on the court as much as possible. And in between Brook Lopez's injury coming back, Giannis playing a 5 position, and Serge Ibaka taking away minutes, I just think he's another one you could probably trade away. Honestly, eventually maybe even drop, but we'll see.
Yeah, Jared, I completely agree. Bobby Portis, he's been playing great this season, but I mean, I just think his experience is lesser than the 3 other centers they have, including Giannis. Serge Ibaka, many years with the Thunder, Raptors, and Clippers. A lot of playoff experience there. Brook Lopez, he was a starting center last year, and I believe his chemistry he has with Giannis is a little bit better than Bobby Portis, and he understands. He's a little bit. I mean, I just think he's a better player than Bobby Portis at the end of the day, and they're going to play the better player come playoff time. And also, more than anything, in the playoffs, teams go smaller, and as we saw last year in the Sun series, Giannis was playing a lot of the 5 matchup against DeAndre Ayton, and that would kind of what led him to win the series because DeAndre Ayton and other bigger centers can't guard Giannis as well as power forwards like Jay Crowder. I mean, Giannis is just a mismatch, and come playoff time, they're going to want to play the star. So I believe Giannis is just going to take all the minutes. If Brook Lopez or Serge Ibaka don't. So I just think if you have Bobby Portis on your fantasy team, maybe not right now because Brook Lopez isn't back yet, but a little bit down the road towards playoff time, the games get tighter. I would definitely look at benching him, or he's a very valuable trade asset, especially if you're playing against someone that doesn't understand that Brook Lopez is coming back. So trying to help you guys. Yeah, definitely look to trade him or just bench him.
Definitely one to keep an eye on. I couldn't agree more. I just think, like you said, there's too many moving parts in this. It's maybe he's not a bad fantasy asset, but it's not the value that he once had earlier in the season. So with Ibaka, Lopez, and Giannis, it's just too many moving parts to be a trustable slot in every single week type of player that he once was. So
yeah, I completely agree with all 4 of these players. Fox and Haliburton, I believe both of them benefited from the trade that happened. We're going to see them really develop as point guards in the future, and not just this season, but also the future. And guys like Holmes and Portis, 2 very talented players, but guys come in, and that's just the NBA, and that's just life. People are going to take your spot. So, I mean, they might have good nights, as I said, but overall, we should expect to see a decline in their fantasy stats. So, definitely great trade assets, but also good bench players. So, I mean, that's just our take.
Keep this in mind, guys.
Keep this in mind. We'll be back in a couple of days with a part 2 with more players, but this was part 1. Appreciate you guys.
All right.